when it comes to politics? Have you ever been so baffled by someone's choices, by what they believe, that you are screaming, either inside or outside, how wrong they are? I mean, you thought that they were a caring person. You thought they were intelligent. How could they think that way? Well, we live in a polarized world. And when it comes to Donald Trump, either love him or hate him. So what I want to help you do today is make sense of this. How is it that two people can be looking at the same situation and see it so completely differently and be so staunch in their views that they're right? Here's the reason why. And we're going to explore this a little bit, so stick around. It's because they are right. Well, how can two people both be right? Well, it's because their realities are feeding back to them the facts that they are right. And so everywhere that they look around, their reality is saying they are right. The reality is saying, yeah, what are you thinking? You must be a conspiracy theorist. You must not be looking at facts. Our realities, the algorithms, media is so polarized that it is feeding people back the beliefs that they already have. So no matter where they look, they see it. What I'm going to do is help you understand this more and also give you some tools so that maybe you can make an impact in their lives and hopefully gain some understanding with these friends and family members and coworkers that you care about, that you want to get along with, and find a path forward. So that's what I'm going to help you do in this video today. So let's look at the facts. We're living through what experts are calling a loneliness epidemic. Recent studies show that 61% of young Americans feel seriously lonely. And the problem is so severe that multiple countries are taking unprecedented action around this. The UK appointed the world's first minister of loneliness back in 2018, and Japan followed suit in 2021. Both acknowledge that social isolation has become a public health crisis on par with obesity and smoking. And the ironic part, this is happening when we're more connected than ever through technology. Our phones ping constantly with notifications, but meaningful, heartfelt conversations are becoming rare. We have hundreds of social media friends, but fewer people we can call when there's a moment of crisis. And now, in a time where we're craving connection more than ever, we're facing some of the deepest political and social divisions in recent history. Family gatherings turn into battlegrounds. People you've known for years suddenly feel like strangers because they post something that you can't believe they could possibly support. How do we bridge these divides? How do we create the genuine connections that we all so desperately want when it seems like every conversation is a potential minefield? How do we build the happiness, the success that we want when society feels more polarized than ever? The other day, I was helping someone whose relationship with her dad was falling apart. They used to be close, and he was the first person that she would go to for advice. But now, they couldn't even get through a call without fighting about politics. He screamed at her about not believing that she's falling for all this nonsense. And it was like they were speaking different languages, living in different worlds. And you know why? Because that's exactly what's happening. There's actually a name for this phenomenon. Scientists call it reality tunnels. It's where people can look at the exact same events, yet see completely different realities. We're each in our own reality tunnels. So we all play different roles in life, and each comes with its own lens on reality. Some of us live for new ideas and shaking things up. And other people, they want to protect what works. They want to keep things stable. And
Neither one of those people are wrong. We actually need both. Just like an ecosystem needs structure and chaos to evolve, society needs the forces of order and change. They both have their place. You see this most clearly in politics. Take any event, a new policy, a protest, a leader, and people will see it totally differently based on whether they're wired to protect what works or to push for change, for progress. I had to learn this the hard way. 8 years ago, a friend and I ended up on opposite sides of the political divide. We nearly lost our relationship until I realized what was happening. We were trying to prove each other wrong, and that wasn't the answer. Understanding was the answer. And I'll get into this in a little bit. And I'll get into this more in a little bit. Here's where it gets a little whoopy. Technology is making these reality tunnels even deeper. Social media platforms are literally designed to show you more of what it is that you already believe. So this is called confirmation bias. And it's creating this echo chamber effect where you only hear what you want to hear, and your views just get stronger and stronger because of it. And here's how it works. The algorithms are constantly watching what you click on, what you like, what gets your attention. They create what psychologists call echo chambers, basically digital yes men. If you engage with anti-Trump posts, here's more. Pro-Trump content, have plenty more of that. Every click pulls you deeper into your own reality tunnel, making it harder to even imagine other perspectives. I witnessed this firsthand when two friends showed me their phones side by side. Both were smart people, they care about America's future, but scrolling through their feeds was like visiting different planets. And this isn't just based on things that they like. In the comments section, it will show you completely different comments based on the algorithm. Yes, the comment sections are handpicked especially for you as well. So it's the same app, the same day, the same country, the same post, completely different worlds. Okay, now this is where we're going to go down some rabbit holes. I've been studying how the universe works, how humans work for over 30 years. And I can tell you that these social media algorithms are not new. They're just copying what the universe has been doing all along. So just like Facebook shows you more of what you click on, the universe shows you more of what you focus on. This isn't just some self-help BS. Quantum physics proves this. So remember that old saying, where attention goes, energy flows? Well, the double slit experiment shows that particles literally behave differently when they're being observed. Your consciousness actually helps create what you see. Yeah, that's what people mean when they talk about manifestation. That's real. So this reality creation starts right in your head. Your brain isn't just taking in information, it's creating your reality. Like a movie director, it chooses what to focus on, what matters, what feels threatening. And out of millions of pieces of information coming at you, you only notice what fits your existing beliefs. Everything else, your brain filters out, or it twists it to fit your story. I saw this play out last week at a healing retreat I was facilitating. Two people looked at the same house and saw two totally different things. The designer noticed flow of space, light and shadow, mood potential. The builder, they automatically looked for cracks in the foundation, poor construction, structural problems. They didn't even have to think about it. That's just where their mind looked. So it's the same space, but completely different realities. Neither are wrong. They're just wired to see things differently. Just like you and your friend could be looking at the same political situation and seeing totally different opportunities or threats. Here's the thing about that though. One person isn't right while the other is wrong. We need both. We need all kinds of people playing different roles. So think of it like a game that needs different types of players. Just like a football team needs both offense and defense, and you can't have all quarterbacks. You need people playing different positions. In an adventure game like Dungeons and Dragons, you need different character types all working together. And by the way, if you've never played D&D, here's why this metaphor is so perfect. In Dungeons and Dragons, you choose a character, knowing their strengths and limitations. Maybe you're a charismatic bard who can charm anyone, but your limitation is that you're physically weak and can't handle direct conflict. But if you're a warrior who's great in battle, you struggle with diplomacy. The fun comes from embracing your role and working with others who have different abilities. The best games happen when players don't fight against who they are, but learn to use their natural abilities skillfully. So just like we need people to play different roles and positions in games to have fun, we need these different perspectives in order to thrive. Nature actually designed us this way on purpose. Some of us are wired to spot threats and protect what works. These tend to be conservatives. Others are programmed to see opportunities and to push change forward. They are progressives. We literally need both types in order to survive and thrive. But here's the problem. Social media and news algorithms are breaking up our natural team dynamics. Instead of working together like a well-balanced D&D party, we're being sorted into separate games. And in these games, we only play with people that are exactly like ourselves. And just like a party of all warriors or all healers or all bards quickly fail in their quest, our society becomes weaker when we lose this dynamic tension between the different perspectives of people. So look around you and you'll start seeing this pattern everywhere. That person that drives you crazy with their constant questioning of everything, yeah, they're playing the role of the innovator. The one who seems so resistant to change, well, they're the stabilizer. They're keeping things from falling into chaos. We need both structure and order to thrive. Here's the thing. Most of us have no idea we're playing these roles. Our way of seeing things feels so obvious that we think this is just reality. This is exactly why facts don't change people's political views. You're not just challenging other people's opinions, you're challenging their realities, their entire operating systems. And their reality tunnel isn't just what they think, it's who they are. So you're challenging people for who they think they are at their core. So how are we ever supposed to come together when people see things so differently? Well, what if instead of trying to drag others into our reality or letting them drag us into theirs, what if we learn to be multidimensional players? What if we could move between different perspectives while staying solid in our own truth? To understand this journey, think of it like leveling up, except you're leveling up not in a game, but leveling up in consciousness. Each level gives you new abilities. So in this game of leveling up in consciousness, at level 1, you're caught in your own reality tunnel, convinced that your way is the only way. But when you go to level 2, you realize different reality tunnels exist, but you still think yours is the right one. And at level 3, you understand that all reality tunnels have their own logic and their own purpose. And that's when you get to level 4. It's at level 4 where you can move between perspectives while still staying grounded in your own truth. So at level 4, you're able to hold space for the whole continuum of polarity and not get socked into one polarized way of thinking. In reality transurfing, they liken this to a pendulum. You want to avoid pendulum swings because it swings you real far in one direction, and the only place to go from there is the far other direction. So if you get stuck in a pendulum swing, you can move past that through conscious choice. But if you're unconscious, you just get caught up in swinging from chaos to chaos, drama to drama, without ever coming to a more stabilized middle path, middle way. And so at that level 4, you're able to hold space for the polarity without getting sucked into one direction or another. So think about this. Where most people are at is level 1, right? They're stuck there defending their territory. They're convinced that they're right and everyone else is wrong. And some people advance to level 2, where they know other people's perspectives exist and that there's some validity there, but they still judge them as inferior to their own. And this is actually where most personal growth work stops, is right here. You never make it to level 3 or 4. So I went through this phase where I thought I was so spiritually evolved that I was above all the human drama. No pendulum swings for me. I was centered, floating on a cloud, ascended. Nothing ever got me off my game. I don't know if you've ever gotten so blissed out, or maybe you learned something new and you thought you had all the answers and everyone else was doing it wrong. Well, that's where I was. But what I thought was acceptance was really superiority. Judging others for, well, being human. You see, there's this funny thing about the spiritual ego. We think we're so evolved because we're beyond human dramas, when really we're just finding a fancier way to disconnect. It's like trying to play the game without engaging with any of the other characters or players in the game. So sure, it feels peaceful at first, but ultimately it's lonely. You can't really connect with anyone because you think you're beyond their low vibrations or ego dramas. Like me, I was just like, I don't actually have anything to talk about because I didn't have any of those things. And so if I don't have anything to talk about, how am I going to connect? How am I going to be open and vulnerable? I was spiritually bypassing my human experience. And looking back, I can see how those spiritual practices were just feeding this old pattern of staying quiet, staying small, not having a voice, while secretly feeling slightly superior. Like I have it figured out, and so I'm here to help everyone. There was this feeling of having a good heart. Well, I'm just here to support other people like a bodhisattva. So I don't even really need to talk about me and myself and my life. I'll just listen to others and support whatever it is that they're going through. But that's in itself a form of both minimizing and putting oneself up on a pedestal. And here's the thing, nothing really changes in the world when we're all just floating above it. And I haven't seen a single enlightened guru that hasn't been called out for inappropriate behavior going against their own principles. So I don't buy into that stuff anymore. I practice and teach more of a grounded spirituality, grounded in our humanness and what it means to be human, an emotional being, and our bodies, rather than floating up in upper chakras, blissfully unaware, yet not able to function fully as a human. And I've seen a lot of that over the years, and I've learned from seeing it happen to them. So I was able to check myself when I got into that place as well. So going back to these levels, it's when you get to level 3 and 4 that real evolution happens. And this is where you're fully engaged and staying flexible. You can still care extremely deeply about your own views, yet you can also stay curious about other people. Because here's the thing, how people view the world, in particular their political beliefs, just like everything else in life, it's really about something else. So someone that gets labeled homophobic because they believe in family values, that's not really what's going on. There's some sort of fear there coming from their past programming. And so they feel like in order to keep themselves safe, they have to preserve something, but they're not even aware of what it is that they're preserving. And just to be fair, right, we'll look at the other side, identity politics. People that are saying, hey, I choose my identity and I want everyone else to change so that me and people like me feel safe in the world. So again, it's about safety. Everyone wants to feel safe. Everyone wants to feel that they belong, that they're not going to get punished or bullied for being themselves. We all want the same things, but we have these strategies that we've created, or these roles, in order to get there. And so it's not about throwing the strategies or the rules out. It's about looking at why they're there, what they're doing for us. Is it serving us anymore? And how can we cultivate the other side of it? So it's this yin yang, not just putting all the emphasis on the light, but also realizing that there's dark within the light, and that's a part of the wholeness. And I tend to be cautious when I bring in spiritual principles now, because I don't want to give the impression that I am above it all, that I've reached the other side and I have all the answers. I catch myself slipping back into level 1 and 2 all the time, of being like, what's wrong with them? Oh my God, I can't believe they're going to vote for that person. I can't believe they look at the world that way. And I got to check myself. I do it too. And that's the thing about consciousness. It's not a destination, it's a practice. So how do we actually develop this ability? Let's talk about that. So let's think about Dungeons and Dragons or playing a video game. In it, you want to level up, right? You want to go to the next level. It's a part of the game. And when you start off, you're not very good. You're still learning the rules and how it all goes. And you don't start off fighting dragons or casting powerful magic spells. You start small. You learn from each of your interactions and gradually build your skills, just like a bard learns to read their audience and different perspectives and adapt their approach. I'll give you a real life example. 2 family members came in to see me who hadn't spoken hardly at all in months because of political differences. And the tension was so thick, you could just feel it. this digging their heels in energy. And that's a safety mechanism. And instead of trying to get them to agree, I had them approach each other like they're explorers, discovering a new world. And they're not there to change it. They're not there to judge it. They're there to understand it and hopefully to appreciate it. Think about it. When we travel to other cultures, we want to be immersed in a different culture. And it's scary that the world is becoming homogenized and westernized, and these distinct cultures are fading. So we want to be curious about it and appreciate each other's inner culture. And here's the key: you don't have to abandon your reality to understand someone else's. Just like learning a new language doesn't make you forget your native tongue, understanding another's perspective doesn't mean losing your own. You do have to drop your judgments, at least temporarily. Most people try to understand others while still judging from their own reality tunnel. It's like trying to watch a movie while constantly picking apart all the plot holes, analyzing the acting or the direction. When you do that, you can miss the actual story that's being told. That happens to me all the time. Just ask my kids. So let's go back to that father-daughter relationship we were talking about. Once she stopped trying to prove him wrong and she got curious, she discovered that his support for Trump wasn't about the policies as she had feared. It came from his deep fear of losing the stability he'd worked for to create his entire life. And was either of them right? Wrong question. What matters is they could finally disagree without destroying their connection. I teach this approach in a program that I developed to improve your relationships, starting with the relationship with yourself, right? All that we've been talking about today, you don't need another person to change this. It starts with your relationship with you and your understanding of yourself, your own judgments, your own values, your strategies for protecting yourself, for getting the things that you think that you need for survival. It's all about you. And when you make this shift within yourself, just like my client, then your relationships change and everything else in your world changes. And you'll start to spot these reality tunnels everywhere. In your relationships, at work, that coworker who fights every single change, you start to see that they have a deep commitment to quality. And that partner who's never quite satisfied, maybe you start to recognize they have a drive for growth and improvement. And here's another reason to develop this flexibility. And it's not just mental, it's physical. Ever notice how your heart races during a heated Facebook debate, where maybe your stomach tightens when someone challenges deeply held beliefs that you have? That's because your body can't tell the difference between a real threat and a threatening idea, also called a perceived threat. And every political argument, every defensive reaction gets processed by your nervous system as danger. You're literally programming yourself for stress and conflict. And over time, this constant state of defense takes its toll. It creates chronic anxiety, digestive issues, sleep problems, which over time, these create dis-ease because your body, your soul, your spirit is not getting the things that it needs to thrive. Your body is literally carrying around the weight of your rigid perspectives. And for what? To protect beliefs that might not even be true or might not even be serving you anymore. Think about it. We inherit most of our core beliefs and values long before we're ever old enough to question them. Like, we don't choose them, we inherit them. And maybe You value stability because you grew up in chaos. Or maybe you fight for change because you witnessed injustice. And these values aren't wrong. They're important pieces of who you are. But when they become rigid and unexamined, they turn into these protective shields and eventually into prison walls. And they keep you from that very connection and joy that you're craving. And that's why there's so many lonely people now, because these structures or algorithms that we have set up in society now are feeding all of this stuff back to us. It's a negative feedback loop. I want to be clear, this isn't about abandoning your values, it's about holding them differently. So think of it like this. Your reality tunnel can have solid foundations, but also have open windows. You can stand in your truth while also understanding others. And when you know this, it changes everything. Those arguments that used to drain you, well, they became chances to connect. Those differences that felt threatening, they become doorways to understanding. And instead of wasting your energy trying to change others or defend your position, you learn to build bridges. And once you get this, you stop getting caught in endless battles. You be this wise sage who knows when to stand firm and when to bend. You learn to navigate conflicts with grace instead of armor. And you know what? People take notice. And when you view the world differently, the world opens up to you. Opportunities show up. You flow through life in a much different way. And the anxiety, the self-doubt, that critical voice in your head, well, it gives way to self-trust, self-belief, putting your energy towards the things that you want rather than the things that you don't want. And even your body relaxes as your nervous system learns to slow down and flow instead of fight. And even when you get frustrated, you find meaning in those things. They're still challenges, but you engage with those challenges differently, which means you can move forward rather than being stuck. And so you have more success, more peace, more joy, more happiness. Again, all those things that you really want. So again, we're all playing roles. Warriors, healers, innovators, preservers, and we each have unique strengths and limitations. Those limitations don't mean we are deficient. They are a part of our character that we chose. On some level, I believe we chose our character. That before coming into this body, we had some say in what it is that we wanted to experience in this life, and other people show up to help us experience that. And so maybe I said, I want to learn to forgive the unforgivable. And so one of my soul family was like, I love you so much. I'm going to help you experience that. That means I'm going to have to do something really, really terrible, something unforgivable, so that you can learn to forgive. And that may or may not happen in this lifetime, but it's part of the game. Do we get to that next level or not? Within this game, we can also choose to change those agreements. Be like, I change my mind. I don't need that. That vow of poverty that I thought would be so cool. Oh, thanks. Not going to do that. I'm changing that. So taking into account that every character has its strengths and limitations, playing your character well comes down to three things. First, you want to understand your patterns. What lights you up? What shuts you down? What makes you instantly defensive? And you're not doing this to judge your tendencies. You're doing it so that you can work with them skillfully. Second, catch yourself when you're on autopilot. So those moments when your heart races and conflicts, or when you shut down to keep the peace, when you're defending a position without knowing why. These aren't failures, they're wake-up calls, and they're showing you where old programming is running the show. And the third, I want you to channel these traits in new ways. If you're protective, use that to shield the things that really matter. And if you're rebellious, direct that energy towards positive change. Most people miss this wisdom. They notice their triggers and then they beat themselves up and try to force change. But resistance only strengthens these patterns. It's like trying to force a warrior character to cast spells instead of like mastering the sword. Working with your nature instead of against it creates something really powerful. It creates flow. Those times where everything just seems to click. It flows easily. You're so engaged that time seems to disappear. You feel super powerful and creative and alive, and action becomes effortless. So that anxiety of doing things right or being right or wrong, it melts away. So that's what flow is. And in order to achieve those states of flow, there's steps. And the first one is challenge. Every great warrior has to accept that challenge. Go on that quest, accept the challenge. And then the second one is surrender. And in this case, you've got to surrender to who you naturally are, the strength and limitations of the character that you play. And then third one is recover. You've got to have downtime, taking care of yourself and really recover and not be like, but I was in that flow state, I need to get back there. No, you're not always going to be there. But the better that you get at that recovery stage, really all of these stages, the more flow states you'll have, the longer that they'll be, and you'll feel great. You may have heard of the holographic universe theory, which shows that every piece of reality contains the whole within it. Just like a hologram, every perspective, even the ones that are opposite of yours, holds a piece of truth. And even better, science tells us that our past experiences aren't even set in stone. What we believe now can actually reshape how past events played out. Yeah, wrap your head around that one. So maybe we're looking at all these differences all wrong. And just like our perspective can reshape our past, it can transform how we see ourselves now. These seeming opposites aren't really in conflict. They're part of a larger balance, like yin and yang, creating the whole. So instead of seeing these parts of ourselves as flaws to fix, they're our unique gifts to the world. And physics shows us why. With the whole where attention goes, energy flows thing. What you focus on literally helps create your reality. So what if instead of fighting your nature or other people's, you fully embrace it? Same with society at large. Like a perfect Dungeons and Dragons party, we need all types: visionaries, practical builders, warriors, peacekeepers, innovators, stabilizer. No role's better than another. It's all essential to the whole. So, like a wizard doesn't need to try to be a warrior. They support the warrior with their own unique abilities, and the healer doesn't try to be the rogue. They keep the rogue alive so they can do what they do best. That's where the power of learning to play as a team. And it opens questions of how can my perspective contribute to the whole? And what blind spots do I have? And what are the strengths that complement my limitations? So back to our original question of people with harmful political views, and you feel like you got to change them, to enlighten them. Well, here's the cheat code for that. The less you push, the more they'll listen. Because when you push, people push back. Our natural tendency is to defend ourselves. We either fight, flight, freeze, fawn. But when you listen, when you ask questions, when you're curious, when you attune to someone, you start to understand and you naturally build bridges. So playing your part skillfully means stop fighting who you are. Your strengths emerge naturally. Your limitations become these opportunities instead of shame, right? Instead of constantly being on guard, which drains the energy that you could be using for real contribution. See the whole game. You still have your convictions, and that's your path. And those might change as you open up your own viewpoint and learn something new. I want to make sure that you know that this is not about being some perfect Zen master who never gets triggered, always taking the time to understand people's point of views. Like, ain't no one have time for that. Use your discernment. But during those times where it does feel important, where those relationships are important to you, or you need to spend time with them because your livelihood, these are the times that you would employ these strategies. You don't have to be like this all the time. You got a life to live. And we all have days where we just can't deal with that. And we hide, we shut down, we maybe even say things we regret. And, sometimes we just need to step away and lick our wounds. And that's not failure. That's being human. This isn't about perfection. It's about having a new way to come back when we're ready. And I've seen this change everything from dinner table politics to workplace dynamics. When you can be authentic and hold space for different perspectives while giving yourself the grace for those messy moments, people feel it. They can feel your energy. That's why people are like, that person has good vibes. And it allows other people to relax. Their nervous system regulates. When yours is, they open up. And then this is when real dialogue is possible. And also know that it's not a quick fix. It takes practice. And that's why you work with a coach, with a therapist. That's where you do a program like the one that I have, where you get to practice with other people these kinds of relational skills, and also understanding yourself, your values, your needs, who it is that you are, your inner programming that's running the show, so that you can cultivate the life that you really want and be the creator in your life. And when you transform, it creates ripples to the people around you. And when enough people become aware and start operating at these higher levels of consciousness, something bigger starts to happen. It's not just about personal change anymore. There's a tipping point where collective belief and action start creating new realities. So think about any major transformation in history, all the social progress that's been made to create equality for all people, no matter your race, creed, sex, gender. This all came about from an idea, and it rippled out to other people, and it rippled out to other people. And when enough people valued and believed the same things, then it became the new reality. And so what is it that you stand for? What is it you're creating? Gandhi said, be the change. It starts with you. Anywhere that you can point your finger out there and say, they need to change, they're the problem, that may be so, but it all starts with you, a single point of origin, rippling outward. And this is what the world needs right now. Not more warriors locked in battle, not more peacekeepers avoiding conflict, but people who can hold both polarities, who can fight for what matters while building bridges to cross divides. And in doing so, you become like a player who's both in the game and aware that they're playing it. This isn't some unreachable ideal. I've watched people transform themselves, create peace within themselves by resolving inner conflict, finding acceptance, surrender, and let go of trying to freaking control everything, fixing and changing themselves and others all the time. And it frees them up, and they make a bigger impact in the world, in their businesses, in their families, in their friendships, and whatever communities that they're a part of, because they stop trying to change each other, control each other's thoughts, and instead turn to curiosity and understanding, realizing everyone has their own perspective, their own viewpoints, their own cognitive biases, their own reality tunnels, their own path. And so, of course, it makes sense that they would think and feel and do the things that they do. Just like the things about you that doesn't make sense to them completely makes sense to you. You're like, yeah, of course I do this. And so I want to reiterate, this isn't about labeling anything as good, bad, right, or wrong. It's a matter of, is it working for you or not? Is it working for you to try to be right and make other people wrong? Is it really getting you the connection that you want? Or are you one of the statistics of the loneliness epidemic? And if so, know that you have the power to choose differently. But you've just got to look beyond the surface. You can't figure this out with your conscious mind, right? This is all unconscious programming, and awareness is the key. So if you'd like support with this, you can find information in my bio, in the description. You can set up a complimentary call with me, and let's see what we can create together. And remember, you're not just learning a new skill, you're leveling up how you play the game of life. And that's worth taking your time with.